So here's something interesting. What you focus on in life, specifically relating to the body, because you got to think the body's like the master controller. And what you focus on in the body, or in life in general, because it all relates back, is what you will kind of grow and receive and focus on and get and be kind of engaged with. Usually the people that you're around and places, etc., etc. I'll explain what I mean. So firstly, if you learn to firstly understand focus. What is focus? You're just focusing, you're looking at something, right? You're feeling something, you're smelling something, you're sensing it, you're focusing on something. When you have ideas of like chi and energy and like, mental psychic abilities and all this kind of stuff, you got to think it relates heavily on the focus, because that's a direction, that's like the guider, so to speak, of all this stuff. So learning to focus and to control the focus, which is, I think it specifically relates to the crown, or maybe somewhere in the head, in the body at least, and then learning your body and the different areas, whether they be the spiritual senses, the organs, whatever it happens to be, it's all pretty much the same thing, it's like the cheat codes of life almost. It's like you can do something without really understanding or thinking. You could be alright. Like maybe you drive a car. Most people drive a car, don't really care how a car works. They don't really care how, like, the fine techniques of driving a car. And that's fine mostly, but you can learn how a car works. You can learn a lot of interesting techniques. Maybe you take some different courses, or you start doing training. Go to like an open area and you start really practicing and really doing some crazy stuff, some crazy turns, and you start hitting some high speed, and you start learning how a car really works at a higher level, right? You can do that with your body and your focus and energy and such in life. And what you will find is that it dictates your life. Now I'll explain. Okay. So firstly, we think of like the root chakra, right? Relating to the legs. The legs are like the offshoot of, the pelvic region of the, it vaguely relates to the earth and water, or the root and the sacral regions, you'd think, right? The same way the arms relate to the heart and throat, and you can think your arms are this outgrowth of the kind of the upper chest and like lower throat region, so to speak, shoulders and all that. So that's interesting. Going on, we probably all know the archetypes. The archetypes of the earth is, Saturn, the bowels, bones, stability, finances, etc. Survival. So if you want to survive better, you focus on like the legs and the lower, your butt, your kind of lower pelvic region, right? That makes you focus on survival. If you have, if this area is weak in the body, then your survivability is low. You're not going to be able to run away, you're not going to be able to support yourself. You probably get a lot of anxiety and a lot of like nervousness, and you just can't get the will and the power to go do things that you need to do, because this area is weak. People have like low finances and not very materially prosperous, have a weak area here. So what happens is that if you subconsciously focus on this area a lot, this is a person who's just focused completely on security and safety, probably their job, probably works a lot. Very materialistic. That's just what's going to happen. If you focus in this area a lot, that's just how you're going to be. Meaning, if you are weak in this area, you can focus on it and you can heal it and strengthen it and get better at it as well. And if you do focus on this area, that's just naturally what's going to happen. That's just, you're just going to passively start thinking about that kind of stuff, focusing on it, right? Similarly, different foods will help. Again, you've got to understand the archetypes. Different foods relate to different areas, different exercises, different colors, different anything that exists relates to something. You can understand that. And if you can understand the relations of everything, that is the whole of the occultic arts. It is the art of archetypes, at least partly. It's one good field of it, at least. Going on, we move to the kind of technically you go to the genitals, alright. That's kind of halfway between the water and the earth center. Right, so a person who's constantly focusing on their genitals, what's that going to be? It's going to be a person who, that's all they're thinking about. They just want to fuck everything or everyone, right? They're very fertile. So why is it that some people attract sexual attention from others? It's because they probably have a lot of sexual energy, or potentially they're drawing it in, so they're using the genital region to draw it in, right? So the person who focuses here is going to be very prominent and focused on that. Chances are, you're going to be looking at sex, thinking about sex, trying to have a lot of sex, right? If you're focusing here. Then we go to the bladder, which is the sacral chakra, water center, etc. This is kind of like being in your feelings, being in like your comfort zone almost. Being like a major energy center, major pool of energy, you think, a lot of regeneration, healing, etc. These people can focus a lot more on pleasure and like enjoyment again. Again, if you have an issue here, you could have a shame issue, again, pleasure issue, too much, too little, too much restraint, too little restraint. It's kind of where we go. And again, every area you can focus on the organs and you can do different techniques and you can practice and strengthen them. And there's this one will come, you'll understand what I mean when we go to the next one, which is the belly, the intestines, the inner fire center. You can think the kind of kidney and belly region, which is your willpower, your vital life force. So that heat is that life force. It's a Martian center, right? And it's a digestive center. You can eat a lot of food if you focus here. If you focus, when you eat food, you can digest it very quickly, actually. Here and also a bit above where the stomach is. You can kind of compress it and you can eat tons and you can just absorb a bunch of energy and also combust. It's like this is a combustion region. So it's like you rev an engine really high, you redline it. You're combusting a bunch of fuel, which is lower region, your bladder, bowel, sexual kind of region. That's a holder of fuel, and of course eating fuel. It's going through there. You're combusting all this stuff to get energy, and that's what this center is, and it does. And people who are constantly drinking coffee, people who talk too fast, who are kind of a pain in the ass to be around, to be honest. I know I'm kind of talking fast right now, don't mean to be. People who are stimulated, just fucking wide out of their mind on stimulants. They're doing, they're kind of like a used car salesman or door-to-door salesman type energy. It's just any kind of salesman, stockbroker person. This is their energy, right? Craftsmen, even athletes to an extent. The samurai they were kind of focused around the belly and the bladder, I think, or the warrior. Technically that's pretty much just what samurai means. Right, and as I said, you can control your destiny. You want to eat a bunch of food. remember one time I wanted to eat a bunch of food, so I did that. I figured that out, right? Or you want to digest a bunch of things. You know, the people who in the past, they would eat a bunch of herbs and minerals and all kinds of crazy shit, right? And then they would focus on their guts, and they would just burn up all the stuff there, and then they would circulate the energy through their blood, through their spiritual veins and channels and such for the body, and that would make them like super powerful, because they would just do you know how much energy is in a mineral? You go look at like the calorie content of a like radioactive mineral. What do you think happens if you eat that, and you can even get like a percentage of the energy, of the calorie energy? You know, the idea of a calorie is a measurement of heat produced by something. So things that produce lots of heat in the body, that's energy, right? That's literally energy, and that's what you're feeding yourself. It's like if you drink a bunch of sugar, water, or like soft drink or something, you feel that push, that radiation of heat throughout the entire body. Similarly, if you've got sluggish digestion, it's not enough heat, not enough, like your focus there, and you gotta burn that stuff up. And that's what some energy, more yang or positive energy cultivators would do. They just continuously do stuff to get more heat. If it's eating a bunch of like specific herbs, like a ginseng or minerals or whatever. I mean, you can even just sit there and eat bread and just circulate it throughout your body, and then your muscles, or bodybuilders do this. They eat a bunch of carbohydrates, and then their muscles just blow out, blow up. I said blow, that's a bit weird. You know what I mean, right? They get huge because of all the blood and all the energy and the sugar in there. And then we move on to more like the heart, you can think, and this is people who are much more, people who like the color green, right? They're a lot more social. What color you like will relate to this. Red, of course, is the bottom, and yellow is the belly, orange is the bladder, light blue is the throat, dark blue or bluish is kind of the head, and then purple is the crown, right? And white is the whole aura, and black is kind of the black's like the negative polarity, white is the positive polarity of the aura. Black's not a bad thing, so don't think about it like that way. Sometimes like too much white is not good, too much positive energy, But of course, sometimes too much black isn't good. So you gotta find a balance between these black and the white, and then grey is like in the middle. Going on, so the heart. If you focus on the heart, you're going to feel love and spiritual, and you're going to be airy, and you're going to be, things aren't really going to phase you as much, and you're going to be a little bit ungrounded. This is like where your artists and your kind of societal people, because family people are a bit lower. Here's the thing, if you don't focus low enough, you're not going to have enough like sexual energy to reproduce properly, and also you're not going to have enough stability to have like a house and work a job and feed your family and all that stuff. So that's why you see like really like family people have like kids, they're probably fatter, probably look more like stable, very kind of mundane. They got that very mundane look, right? But then people who are in the city, like city people, are a bit thinner because they're more in their heart and their throat, and some of them are in their heads, right? Going on, so again, this is where the arms come from as well. So one of the aspects is actually if you look at a guy who really works his arms out, he's got a lot of heart energy, a lot of heart strength and power. That's like volatile spiritual energy. It's like wind, or like it's not like the guts. Like the guts is more just raw fire, but the heart is more like hot air or like wind or something, I guess you would say. So usually those kinds of guys who have a lot of who exercise a lot and they're really into the gym, but they're more into the arms, they do have a lot of gut energy but a lot of heart energy as well. And then you got like the power lift, the guy who's more hips and legs, he's more water and earth. which is more like stamina and stability and real like lifting heavy ass weights, right? People who like to just be around other people probably, I think, are here and also in their throat. You know, people who like to go to parties, like to be out and be social. It's like the wind, you know, the wind just rushes through everywhere. That's what they like. They like the wind, right? And then we got the people in the throat. Now, these are the people who talk a lot. I've got a fair amount of throat energy, writing, you know, typing, talking, and of course, text, like writing and reading, is like a lower level of speaking. Speaking is more like the volatile, the active, while the writing and reading is more the passive, much more negative quality. And then of course reading is negative and writing is positive, while listening is negative and talking is positive, if you get what I mean. Meaning you're expending energy when you write and you speak, and then you're gaining energy when you read and you listen, if you get what I mean. Pretty simple. So this is like your radio people who love radio. Radio waves, you think radio waves is a lower frequency wave, while the microwave, which is more where like the internet, technically everything's transferred via like internet waves now, which is I think in the microwave frequency. What it used to be like 2 to 10 gigahertz a couple of years ago, now it's what, like up to 100 gigahertz. We're frying our fucking minds with that much radiation. So that's more like the head. But going back to the throat, yeah, again, these are people who learn languages, who understand language, and the people who actually cared in English class or whatever, you know, language class you had. Maybe you learned like French or Spanish because you're from that country, I don't know. The people who are really into literature and all that, mind you, I didn't really ever understand like the English class, but I did like to speak and I did like to write and you know, read stuff on the internet, right? That's just kind of how I did things, but I didn't really understand and I still don't really understand the fundamentals of the English language. You know, that's kind of funny. Like I haven't really cared like what a verb and an adverb and an adjective. I mean, I kind of, you know, like a verb. What's that? A doing word, or is it a describing word? Or I don't know. Look, it probably isn't a bad idea if I learn those things, but point being, you can be really bad and really good at the same time at something. So, you know, don't get yourself down and think you'll never do anything or accomplish anything. You know, look at me. I don't know what the fucking adjective. I mean, I'm sure I can look it up. You know, I can look it up, right? I'm always learning and doing this stuff. Being on the computer, like the old school early computers are really related to that throat level. You know, programmers, people who love computers are at the throat and the head level a lot of the time. That's where it takes you. That's where, you know, if you focus on that level, it's going to open up your throat. It's going to make it easy to speak and express yourself. A lot of people are like a mess. They're a jumbled mess when they speak. Even I struggle with that, right? Especially if you do a lot of throat stuff. It's like you're tired, your throat's tired, and it becomes hard to speak. Whatever. It'll make it easier if you focus there, if you want to do that. Moving on to around the head area, the head region. So, of course, we've got the memory in the back. So people have a strong back of the head. They're very good at memory. The front is more the senses. So you're thinking of back end, front end of a program. The people who are into visuals and graphics, art, you know, visual art, are the front people. People who are into the sound, into the ears, the sides, right? Then people at the back are more the processors of data, and then people lower, or the data basing people, because that's like memory, right? And then people lower are more like the fundamental programming functions, like the functions of the program, right? Or for you object, well, I don't know, how do you do logic? Because the object's kind of like a glorified structure. It's like a glorified data structure, isn't it? I think you can have classes which you can have like functions and all kinds of crazy shit in. And a class is just a glorified TXT file. Instead of having a bunch of different TXT files that end in .c, whatever, crazy language you people that do object-oriented programming use. You probably all C#, Java or something, right? It's basically just that. Instead of having a bunch of different C files, you put it all, you have a bunch of different classes. But you probably do also have a bunch of different files that have individual classes, which is useless. But I'm not going to argue. You do whatever shit programming you want, and I'll do good programming over here. Which has memory leaks. Jokes aside, the head people, again, imagination, it's people who are very sense-based, who are like, Americans actually have a lot of this, funny enough. The front, at least, they're visual, they're always in movies, films. I guess the French films and movie came from, the camera, I think, came from France. France is a lot of good, like, clothing and looks and jewelry and they're very beautiful art and all this kind of stuff. So they're more refined, you could say, in that way. It also gets you into like computers, the astral plane, the virtual world, the like virtual reality. That is the domain of the head. People who are always in virtual reality, always on computers, it's an audio, visual, textual, video, whatever experience, right? You're in the virtual hyperspace, which is that's how it works. Or people who are always in fantasy, if they're reading books and they, I guess that's, if you want to read a book and you want to imagine it, subconsciously you put a bit of energy in the middle of your head and try to feel around and try to focus where like the imagination centers are, right, in the head, but you will passively visualize what you're trying to read. Probably you have to do a bit of work on it, but you'll get there. So these people are like very very smart, you'd think. People in the throat and the head, you think they're very smart, very intelligent, very like psychic also. People who get inner visions, always imagining things. Like Tesla was imagining how his motors work. You can just sit down, you can just imagine things. It's good to do that, really understand them. Finally, then we have the crown, which is the center of pure awareness. It's just pure being. It's like you can think light goes through a glass prism, right? Piece of glass, and it splits into all the rays, which are the senses, or the faculties of the body that we've talked about. The guts, the bowels, the bladder, the genitals, the heart, the throat, the head. And the different parts of the head, the top of the head, right? That's what this crown is. And this is where your visionaries, your holistic people, the people that are like really ungrounded, that have a vision, they have a great vision for the future. And probably the people who get involved in like climate change activism, or because social activism is probably more active. I don't know how the fuck you say it, whatever that word is, right? You get what I'm saying. They're probably more at the heart, but people who get into like global issue type stuff, beyond even politics, futuristic kind of shit, are at the top of the crown. And if they're not grounded enough, not realistic enough, chances that they amass a bunch of money just by getting sponsorship and like venture capitalism, and then it goes absolutely nowhere because they don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to get the right people. So a bunch of rats just bite into them and just drink their blood, and which is their money. And then they think that these rats are rats probably not a good idea. Mosquito, rats can be nice. Mosquitoes come in and then they just take all the money, and then they're like a meth addict or something, or like an opiate addict and homeless, and they don't know how to function, because these people would be revered pretty much as gods in the past, because they were so highly advanced. It's just that they're so highly unrealistic and ungrounded. They don't really know how the world works, but they're a visionary, right? They're a visionary. They're a master guru people, like super spiritual monks. These are like the top level spiritual people. You know, you can think anyone in the head has some kind of spirituality, even if they're like hyperlogical, you know, super scientific, which just means an armchair scientist, because I bet they've never fucking, you know, done an experiment in their life. I bet they just sit around and read and pretend they know what they're doing. But even those people, you can think, because they're in the head, technically that's a spiritual characteristic or energy characteristic. You know, you can think the elements, the earth is the root and the bottom, then it turns to like mushy earth, which is sexual, you know, like jelly basically, which is a sexual region, then turns to water, the bladder, you know, then turns to like, then it gets heated up in the guts, turns to air, you know, hot air, and then turns to ether, which is like electrostatic higher up. Then it turns to the head, which is like the realm of the stars, so light, I guess, light and darkness maybe, and then it turns to the crown, which is like infinity, you know, space, infinite light, or like super high radiation, elementally, you can think, right? Yeah, so that's why you can just like focus on the head and gain temporary enlightenment. That's how this stuff works. Of course, if you haven't worked on the grounding, you know, you can unlock traumas and get ungrounded and, you know, whatever. But yeah, what do you want out of life? What do you want to get better at? I could say some really inappropriate stuff that I'm not going to. Maybe you want that. You now know how to get it. Or maybe you want something a little more wholesome and normal. I don't care. Look, it's your life, right? Assuming, you know, you're not doing anything shifty or weird or bad, or you know what I mean. You know, you can allow yourself some enjoyment as long as it's modest and good natured and such. Point being, if you learn how to apply this, yeah, there you go. You can like gamify life. I don't know, just it's like the cheat codes of life, so to speak. It's through your body, and if you learn the systems, it's a bit like an RPG game where you can individually allocate your stats. That's pretty much what we're doing. And as I said with the guts, you know, you eat a bunch of like weird elixirs and you get a bunch of energy. That's like you're just getting EXP points off natural things, and you're just focusing in an area in the body, and you're upgrading it, you're leveling it up. Technically, this is also how it works if you want to heal something. You just keep focusing on an area. Of course, you will be surprised how long it takes to really heal something, so maybe I'll do a video on that later on. I don't know. So yeah, of course, check links in the description for social commercial stuff, and have a good day. I have that new journal, check it out. Job of the, what do you call them, the physician, the doctor, the, you know, medical related person in general is to heal you, and to heal you means to fix your problems. Meaning you have a sore arm or a shoulder that hurts, and you want it to not only stop hurting, but you want it to function properly. You even want it to function better. It's a bit like a mechanic, you know. You have an issue, maybe your brake pads are worn down, and you fix them, you replace them, you know. And now your brake pads aren't worn down, and you can brake your car or your bike, and it works good, right? That's what we want out of a mechanic, a doctor, or whatever. Issue is, of course, this video isn't, like, I'm going to get into it in a minute, but let me just rant for 30 seconds, alright? Issue is, in the modern world, most doctors are essentially picked, well, without kind of engaging race into this and some other things, let's just say most doctors really aren't the best. 7 years of school where you're probably on amphetamines, just studying to pass tests and probably not doing enough practical work. Even the practical work that you are doing is probably not really going to make you a good healer. Health is really, you gotta understand the vital energy. You gotta understand the vital life force, how that works in life. Where you focus on in the body is where the vital life force flows to. Naturally, our vitality is always just radiating and circulating, right? Depending on how healthy you are, depends on how strong it is, depending on how strong your body is, also depends on that. On how much you eat, on how much you sleep, what kind of supplements or other stuff you take is what will enhance it or degrade it, etc. That's why you just naturally heal, right? And of course, through life, we take damage. Through, it could be psychological, social damage from people, right? Nowadays, I'm sure probably most of us get hurt more in our poor little hearts and heads than we do, lifting bricks and chopping wood and, doing stuff that is more physical. So it's all important. Right, and then your vital force flushes through and cleans these areas and heals them and tunes them up and all that stuff, right? Or at least it should if things are functioning properly, which is why slowly you feel something get better. But what happens when something doesn't get better? When something progressively is getting worse, potentially from a long-term trauma or what you would say a genetic issue, which is just an issue your family line hasn't fixed yet. Now you have to. Or through, work strains, work stresses, or maybe you just have a little accident, who knows, doing something. I don't know. What do you do? How do you fix it? And of course, all kinds of things are there physically, creams and pills and herbs and massages and talk therapy and listening to nice music and being outside. There are all these things that are used as therapy. They even use like color therapy and make you draw pictures and all that kind of stuff. Nowadays, I think they use like musical instruments and there's all these different kinds of therapies. Of course, it depends on the issue. If you have a sore knee, you're probably not going to start drawing pictures and listening to I don't know. Jeez, I don't know, right? You'd assume someone would have to do something more physical because it's a knee issue, right? I found that if you focus on parts of the body and you learn to circulate the vital force, this is one of the best ways to control the healing. So unfortunately, you may need to just sit down for half an hour a day and circulate your blood and your energy and your focus throughout the body and just channel it into the areas that hurt. And usually what will happen is slowly your body will give you more control of it, because depending on how fucked up your body is and how run down it is, because a lot of people are running around with all of the red lights on. Like you got a car, the oil lights on, the coolant lights on, just everything is just flashing and telling you are fucked up, and they ignore it. Or they don't even know because their body has, it's like pumped them under so many painkillers just to get them through the day, that if you start to do these meditations where you start to circulate the vital energy through yourself, it slowly unhinges, unlocks, and it gives you a little more feeling, and you're going to feel more, and it's going to hurt. Because you're going to feel the body, you're going to feel how run down you are, how bad the machine that you have is. And that could be the fault of your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents genetically giving you a rundown piece of shit. It could be your own fault. not caring and focusing too much on your career, your money, maybe trying to focus too much on other people, giving too much of your own energy, not enough to yourself, right? Could just be a simple mismanagement and not knowing how the world works, how nature works, the seasons, the cycles, what to eat, etc. Who knows? I don't know. And depending on all this stuff will depend on your general health and how much you need to repair yourself, right? So try it, right? One example, I banged one of my toes into, I don't even remember, a corner or something, and I've had like nerve damage there for like a month. It was like, that's how bad it is. I can touch my toe and it's got like a numb, it's like partially numb, that kind of area of my foot, and it feels like electrical sensations, like numb nerve sensations, right? And if I just focus there, it gets a little better and it's a little less numb, right? But here's the thing. Like a couple weeks ago, I focused there and got a little better, and then I wasn't really able to focus there. I didn't really have the energy, and it's still kind of, it hasn't fixed itself yet. Like in weeks, it hasn't fixed itself. So it's like, it's stuck. It's waiting for me to give it the energy and the nutrients and the blood and all this stuff, to give it some love, essentially. So it's like I have to choose when to fix and heal that, is the best way to describe it. Which is kind of strange. So if I want a toe that is not numb, I'm just going to have to focus there. The same way, if you have like cuts and bruises and scrapes and all kinds of, whatever skin problems, technically we call it a flesh and skin problem, right? If you've got a cut right in the skin and the flesh, you can focus there continuously and circulate it to help heal that. And you will see, if you really focus there for like an hour, you'll actually start to see that your skin looks a little different. I think if you get really good at this is how you start getting into like super healing ability, and you can do all this stuff on other people as well. You can practice on other people. You just radiate your energy to them, your focus, basically you focus into them, and you stimulate their bodies and healing and all that stuff. But I think if you get really good at this, I've seen on like videos people doing this, you like cut yourself and you just focus on it so hard, so well, you're so good at healing that it like seals up. It's healing, it's doing like a month worth of healing in like a minute, because you're just so good at that, right? I believe that's a real thing. And you'll believe I say that because, or you'll believe that, if you try it, because if you focus on, a visible issue, like a skin issue or something, you will see it get a little better. And you can kind of watch it. It's almost like if you watch it while you focus on it, it's like it starts to get better before your eyes. And I don't know if I'm just imagining something, because it's a bit like watching a plant grow. Imagine if you had this ability, you could probably focus on a plant and make it grow quicker. It's the same vital force that causes a plant to grow is the same vital force that causes a body to heal, right? Technically, if you want to put this to the extreme, you could then focus on like an animal and just like and then it's like a chicken. You focus on an egg, and then the chicken comes out, a little chick, and then you focus on the chick, and it grows into like a hen or a rooster within, I don't know, like a day or something, or an hour, depending on how far you want to take this. You could probably do that as like a practice, if you want to get like super good at that. Because if you could do that, grow a chick into a rooster in a day, you probably heal like all kinds of crazy physical issues. Like, that's how far you can take this. So go practice it. Start focusing on where it hurts and your issues. And you do have to be careful, because if your blood is impure, which means you kind of maybe have eaten something that's not so good, or you're really just stressed out, feeling like shit, and you focus on an area that's in pain, you will kind of heal it, but you'll also kind of, you're flushing it with impure energy. So, yeah, do be careful of that. And if you focus too long and you focus too strongly, you will burn an area of the body, and you can actually cause issue as well. So you have to be careful how much you do it, and you have to modulate. You have to be able to modulate and your feeling to make it not too strong, not too weak. Because if it's too weak, it won't really do anything, right? And also some areas will cause more pain when you heal them because they're releasing more like toxins and baggage and all kinds of stuff. So apparently that's kind of like what a tumor or cancer is. There's a big bag of toxins you kind of got to take out, Yeah. Anyway, whatever. That's about enough. Check the links in the description for all social and commercial stuff, and have a nice day. Goodbye. Knowing how to read people, interact with them, understand them, etc., it's all a valuable skill, right? And one thing I want to talk about is that definitely I noticed as I started to improve myself and my life that just many people started to fade away, and I'm sure you've noticed this yourself. Friends, family, it could be anyone really. And it's almost like when I enter bad states, like really, really bad states, that's when it's almost like the world of like another person that I've left in the past tries to intersect and to join my world. And in the past I might have like talked to people again that I've well, basically the relationship's finished, right? Talk to them again, and then what I found is that once I had gotten out of that bad state and gotten better, I just had no interest. I guess it's like, people who enter romantic relationships a lot, usually that's the thing is that they go back to an old romantic relationship, I guess, when they're in a bad state, and then they kind of realize, oh wait, what am I doing? And it's over. I'm not just talking about like friends and family and all that, right? I'm not talking about romantic relationships, but I'm sure it's the same thing. Anyway, but pretty much, it's almost like I feel like a lot of people want me and my energy, and they want to talk to me, but it's in this really almost like passive aggressive way and selfish way where like other people want me to be the one to reach out, and here's the thing, I have reached out before, and I've noticed that if you want to like have a relationship in general, usually if you're the more conscious person, you're going to be the one doing all the work. This is how it works, right? Usually. But especially if you reforge a relationship from the past, that family member, a friend, or whoever is going to want you to do everything, and they're going to be resentful at you. That's what I found. I found like it's not even worth it anymore, because like, do I need someone to be like annoyed at me, kind of passively aggressively, but also at the same time they desperately want my energy? Because that's the kind of feeling I get, right? Is that they desperately want my energy, but it's like they don't want to put in the work, or they kind of can't, because it's almost like you have a force field around you. The more you heal yourself, and the higher up and the better you go, right? You kind of have this force field which protects you from like bad people to an extent. Also, I said if you get sick or you get to weak points, you're very stressed out or whatever, you can be kind of weakened. I guess it's almost like a drug addiction, There's a reason why. Maybe if you had a drug addiction, there's a reason why you quit. It's because it's not good for your health. Maybe it kept you up at night. Maybe it just made you kind of unhinged or made you sick all the time, you know, all these bad things, right? The same thing will be if you talk to a certain person again and they haven't changed from the inside out, they haven't really changed, which, you know, 99% of the time they haven't. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I realized why I didn't do this, and instantly you're going to be like, nah, I'm good, goodbye, and just leave. So I don't know, people kind of got to be worth your time after a certain point, I guess, if you want to spend a lot of time around them, you know. That's what I found, is like, I don't really want friends anymore. I talk to people, right, and I have like colleagues and associates and such. I don't want to be spending a lot of time around a person unless they are. See, I want a wife, right? You know, I want a wife and family, so I want to be spending time around my future wife once I find her, right? Pretty much beyond that, that's all. That's that. They're my children as well. So I don't know. I find it is just as you get older, maybe you just stop kind of caring about being around people. I think it's more of like definitely young men love their groups. You know, if you notice a young man or a man in general is very group minded, he's still kind of young. If he's looking for that group or he's trying to create that group, whatever, he's still kind of young in his mentality, or he actually is young. I think women are generally more group orientated, though, more than men, so probably they would more likely to be in a group. Of course, not all of them. I think if they get their own family, maybe women stop caring for that group. The same thing kind of happens to men, you know, they make their own family, or they get a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, and then they stop hanging out with all the other guys. We've all had that. If you're a guy, you've had that, you know, one of your guy friends gets a girlfriend and now he doesn't want to spend time with anyone, so chances are his girlfriend's a bit possessive, or maybe not the best person, so it's a bit like he starts to become like a little bit of a robot or a drone or something. It's not exactly the healthiest relationship, let's put it that way. At least that's what I've seen a lot of. So maybe completely isolating, you know, a man from his friends isn't the healthiest thing. I don't know. Probably not. Yeah, really, I guess that's it. It's almost like, I don't know, as you level up, you're going to give people up. And if you want to keep people in your life, you have to remember that you've got to go down to their level. Basically, like I was always trying to pull people up to my level, and they don't want to be pulled up. People want to just sink, just be lazy, you know, just be like bad people essentially. And eventually, when their addictions and their demons and bad habits and bad thoughts and bad energy just is too much on you, that's when you say no, that's when you say goodbye and you have to leave. The worst thing, of course, is if you are forced via some kind of necessity, some kind of, like you live with someone, that's the worst thing, or you live in a bad area, and my advice would be to get out if you can. So, you know, take it as it is.